Let's check out what right-wing talk radio show has to say about the National Trust's decision to place plaques on buildings that are the beneficiaries of the slave trade. Let's check out what Tom Nicholas and Anne Widdecombe had to say about it.
Break it down!
The National Trust, though, they've been accused of defaming the memory of Winston Churchill to suit their woke agenda.
That's because we know what agenda you want them to have.
I know you know, all right? And I know you know I know you know.
Members of the charity have threatened to cancel their memberships amid accusations the organisation has become too political after a report linked its properties to colonisation and slavery. On Monday, 28 Tory MPs, politicians said...
Tory MPs write a letter to a Tory supporting newspaper? What a surprise.
A letter to the Telegraph which said history must neither be sanitised nor rewritten to suit snowflake preoccupations, a clique of powerful privileged liberals.
Can they give us any examples of who these powerful liberals are? Because I'm really curious to see.
Good sentence.
Show me who you are.
Today, the Minister for Heritage, that's Nigel Huddleston, ruled out requests from MPs to hold an inquiry into the direction of the Trust, but said its slavery report was unfortunate.
So which powerful people's image should we imagine history through?
Anne Widdecombe is former Home Office Minister, of course, former Brexit Party MEP, cancelled her membership with the National Trust in protest at their treatment of Winston Churchill's home. That's Chartwell, of course, in Kent.
Was it unfortunately true by any chance?
Anne Widdecombe, good afternoon. Nice to have you with us.
Good afternoon to you too.
Have you re-signed up to the National Trust?
No, I certainly have not.
So she's upset and she's withdrawn her membership, which was within her right as a consumer.
I've been very disappointed. I mean, the slavery thing and Winston Churchill was just the final straw.
She's making it very clear by going on to this talk show that she's leaning in to the culture wars and people's negativity towards British culture changing.
Everybody should change!
Over several years now, the National Trust has introduced a lot of politically correct initiatives, a lot of which have attracted controversy, some of which, of course, haven't.
Yeah, she's very unspecific about what decision the National Trust came to, so that you lot don't really know why she's outraged. Because if you knew, you probably wouldn't be as sympathetic with her.
But my real problem with all of this is this. History is not just about, how science advances and what countries are at war with everybody else, and how fashions change. It's about the evolution of human beings.
No, history is a collection of events through time, and the people in power have a tendency to be selective over the things they teach us.
From grunting Neanderthals all the way through to the 21st century so far.
Neanderthals don't exist anymore. They were subsumed by Homo sapiens as they migrated into Western Europe. And guess what? They migrated from Africa.
And it's a nonsense to suppose that people who lived 100 years ago, in the case of Edward Colston, 300 years ago, are going to have the same outlook as we do.
You're right. I don't expect us to have the same views as people did 300 years ago, as I don't expect us to celebrate those same figures either through statues.
If I can make an analogy, getting away from human beings for a moment, just look at animals. I'm a huge animal welfarist. I support umpteen causes from hedgehogs all the way up to elephants. But I fully accept that at the turn of the last century, the heroes of the hour were the big game hunters.
She says she loves animals, but back in the day, we used to catch tigers. Now, where did we catch tigers? Here? Or, that's right, colonialism. Without colonialism, we would have never been able to exploit the lands, the flora, and the fauna of Africa.
Who went out and brought back tiger skins. Now, we all think that's appalling. But at the time, society didn't.
There was a time we sent kids up chimneys. But fortunately, we don't live in that time.
Yeah, it's not. History is not meant to be a comfort blanket.
Yeah, no one's asking for history to be a comfort blanket, as you put it. But it's obvious that it's a comfort blanket for your ignorance.
And this goes for so many areas of life, and I'm sure, Anne, you're older than me, you're wiser than me, you've been around the block, you've been in government, you know how things work, and you're an educated woman.
Are you crazy? Is that your problem?
Do you not look at this as well and think, hang on, the voice, everything you've just said, literally don't know anybody who would disagree with anything there.
Both of you crazy.
Other than this very small but clearly rather loud group of people that have been referred to as powerful privileged liberals trying to rewrite history. How does that smaller voice, much smaller voice, amplified as it is, manage to penetrate and often get laws changed?
What, the smaller voice that dominates our mainstream media, our print press, and is our right-wing government?
People that run organisations come out squealing full of sorrow for things that happened 5 billion years ago.
Come on, seriously.
Well, it's a very, very good question. It's one that I've asked in frustration many times because the establishment, as you've correctly pointed out, the establishment just kowtows to all of this.
Who is the leftist establishment? Because we already have a Tory one and a right-wing mainstream media.
And, even though it's only a minority, and even though the vast majority either are not interested or take an opposite view, the establishment will always bow down to what are now being called the wokerati.
Nah, because she believes we should continue to cow down to the right-wing media and capitalist interests that this country already does.
And there's no need to. One should merely stand up to them, and that's all it's going to take. And last year, for example, when no platforming was all the rage at universities, that's the procedure whereby you don't have anybody who's got a controversial opinion.
She's right. We shouldn't no platform anybody, but for the same reasons that we should contextualise history so that we see Britain for all its brutalities as well as its glories.
I did a debate in the Oxford Union on whether no platforming should go ahead or not. Naturally, I said that it should never take place.
Yeah.
And I was expecting to lose that motion, instead of which our side won by hundreds, literally, and got a standing ovation. Those young people do appreciate freedom. Now, if they can, why can't others?
So then, if someone came to you making the claim that Winston Churchill was a racist and shared many of the same views as Adolf Hitler, would you allow them to express that view in front of you?
Yeah.
What's happened to the view that we once held, which was that however strongly you disagree with somebody, nevertheless you defend their right to express that view?
That
so
would have been
interestingly,
extraordinary.
now Shah, the Labour MP,
Yep.
refused to take part in the debate. She was scheduled to attend, refused to take part.
Why?
Because one of the people on our side was Katie Hopkins.
What? The racist provocateur?
And now Shah said no, she wouldn't share a platform with her. Now, I'll share a debating platform with anybody. I won't sit on a platform and listen to somebody giving a speech of which I disapprove unless I can answer back. But if I can debate with them, if I can answer back, I'll share a platform with anybody.
Yeah.
So, she's disappointed the National Trust came to a decision that she's not happy with, and she withdrew her membership. Now, that's not at all contradictory, though.
Good universities teach you that. That's the whole point of debate, isn't it? It's it's back to the, it's not a comfort blanket. And certainly the Oxford Union have had far more controversial figures than Hopkins, who've pitched up over the years. And of course, that's the point, to scrutinise and question and debate and discuss and then conclude and decide you either agree or still fundamentally disagree. What's wrong with that?
Nothing's wrong with that. And the way that you counter something horrible like, say, Holocaust denial, the way you counter that is to hear it and destroy it.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is racism denial should be confronted, so it's not forced underground because people don't want to acknowledge it.
What do you think is going to happen back to the National Trust, Anne Widdecombe? I mean, in terms of, we're hearing a lot of, this was linked to slavery, or that statue might well have, and I understand that. I mean, to many people it is a little odd that there's a statue standing there in the middle of, a square in Bristol.
So now it's reasonable to object to statues that have unfortunate histories or figures of the same. But the homes, the estates and the capital that were built off the back of that very same slave trade, we're not allowed to put plaques on them.
But we're not talking about anything as blatant as that. We're just talking about homes that existed and the fact that somebody who once lived in it may or may not have had a connection somewhere.
Well, and a very, very faint connection at that. But I mean, for example, they accused Churchill of colonialism. Well, of course, because he lived in an age when Britons had colonies. I grew up in that age when we still had colonies.
Now, we all have ancestors who were around during colonialism, but most of us were not direct beneficiaries of it, unlike Churchill.
My stamp album said British Dominions.
Yeah.
We accepted that at the time. We don't now. But you can't rewrite things and expect that people who lived at a certain time will have our views.
No one's asking to rewrite history. All we're asking for is a recontextualizing of the events so they're not in one person's or group's favour over another's.
I mean, you just quoted Edward Colston in Bristol. But God bless us, when that man was alive, we still had hanging, drawing and quartering.
So because we hung, drawn and quartered people, it's a perfectly reasonable justification for slavery. Anne?
Now, if we didn't see anything wrong with that, why on earth were we going to have the empathy to see something wrong with slavery?
And this is where the presenter moves her on.
Yo, the sign is real simple, B. It says wrap it up.
Anne Widdecombe. She's always lively, and you always get a tell it like it is moment, even if you fundamentally disagree with her. I've known her for years, and he
wants to just reassure his audience that really she's a nice lady, even if he didn't agree with her points.
Turns it out every time. And I genuinely cannot argue against. I don't want to.
So do you want your audience to conclude that we should not worry about the brutality of history and we should just be like, no, let's forget about it. Let's move on. We're now, not then.
Get rid of it so we can't ever know it happened.
So another bang-up job done by right-wing mouthpiece Talk Radio in diminishing the recontextualizing of history so it is more representative of the people who exist in this country and its former colonies, in order to appeal to the people who fear that black and brown people may change British culture so it's unrecognisable to them.
Break it down!